Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to Going Solo and Going Bold on the new streamingnetwork.com. This show is called Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am one of your hosts, Cece Shatz. It is a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland. Joanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Joanne Weiland, Why Land When You Can Fly. And I'm with LinktoEXPERT. I founded LinktoEXPERT 20 some years ago, and I'm still having fun. And I enjoy working with Cece, and we love sharing so many other experts' insights with you on our shows. And we will continue to do that. But today we thought we would step back and share with you some of our insights as well. But the real key here today that I'd love you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil or something, and because we're going to be asking you questions as you pretend to be on our show as the expert, okay? And sharing your insights. And the only reason that you wouldn't want to do that is if you wouldn't want to grow your business, because a lot of things we're going to ask you today are because we've been asked them over and over, because Cece and I have been around a long time, and we've actually gone to lots and lots of seminars, webinars, online events, you name it, and reading books, learning from all these insights that we bring on the show, plus many more that haven't been on the show. But I feel like we're continually learning. But if we don't take time to stop and really think about some of the things we learn and implement some of the things we learn, we still keep going in that vicious circle and never get out. So that's why today we thought, let's share some of our insights. Is that,
Yeah, totally. I
you know,
totally agree with that. Because so often we're so in the busy mode, right? Busy, busy, busy doing our business. We don't even know where we're coming or going half the time. And yeah, so I think sometimes we have to slow it down, kind of think about it a little bit more. And sometimes we also need to think about, what we're good at, because we don't think about that, do we? What we're really truly good at.
Exactly. I always think the same thing that, if you could figure out what you love to do and let others do the rest or automate the rest. And this is part of what we wanted to talk about. Because if you listen to our last show that we did together, we did talk about eliminating, automating, and delegating. But because it's such a deep subject, we really just mainly focused on the eliminating. So if you didn't listen to that show or watch that show, we invite you to go back. But to give you an idea, what we talked about last time was that you write a list for a week or two of everything you do. You might think this is so silly, but this is truly what I learned from some real experts, and it's truly changed my life. So just as you're doing things during the day, just jot down what you've been doing, whether you want to put them on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, whatever. But you will be surprised of all the things you do in a week or two. Because the reason I even say two is because sometimes we do something occasionally, but we don't do it every week or every day. So I just invite you to start by writing your list. And then after you write your list is what the next thing we talked about on the show last time was, what can you look at the list and check off that you could eliminate, that it might be something you really don't need to be doing. Like Cece was just talking about busyness, business. We call it business. But if you really look at the way it's spelled, busyness, and we're all guilty of it, because a lot of times when, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur, or even if you have a team, you can get so caught up in doing busy things. Sometimes it's because it's easy for you, or sometimes it's just something you think you have to keep doing, but maybe you don't. You can ask yourself, like, is this really something that I need to be doing, or is it something that maybe I didn't need it to do in the past, but now I can eliminate it? And sometimes it's even just emails. For me, my biggest challenges for eliminating stuff is spending so much time with email. So if you throughout the day you keep going back to check if you got email, that might seem productive, but what if you would just go to once or twice a day to check your email? Because of the fact that when you're doing that, you don't realize it, but your mind constantly gets confused, they say it actually takes 10 minutes to really get engrossed in another project as you keep switching them. So I just recommend that you consider not doing emails throughout the day, and take it down to once or twice a day, and you'll be surprised how much more you get done because of the fact that you're not constantly being stuck with that. Even with your phone, I find with myself, I often vibrate it or mute it because of the fact that when I keep getting text messages, I want to quick look who it is and what it is. And if you are, waiting for an important call or something, that's different. But I'm talking about day to day when, and then especially, sometimes it's just advertisements or whatever, and that's okay. But I just recommend you eliminate. Do you have any other suggestions for how our viewers and listeners could eliminate more of their tasks?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you're making your list, kind of star what is truly important, because you're making your list, you're looking at possibly eliminating, but then also put emphasis on what is truly important that has to be done. And is that something that you can delegate to someone else, or
Yes.
you hire someone else to do those things? So is that something that you have to do yourself, or maybe even like doing it, so you want to do it yourself? But so
Mhm.
you want to make sure you star or highlight those things that are very important to you, that you want to continue on having a handle on in your business. And I think we also need to think about, we don't always do it like, because we get like whatever our business is, we're focused on our business. And years ago, my ex and I had an accounting business together. And one thing we realized, and that we capitalized on, was smaller businesses. And
Mhm.
we noticed that, a business will fail if you don't keep an eye on your money. And so that is all that needs to be also on your list of things to check and to do. And so to be aware of, the ins and outs of what's happening in your, even though you might have hired somebody, you've got an accountant, you've got all of them, they don't know what's important in your business and what isn't important. So
Mhm.
if you get your monthly, your monthly statement, if you get those things in, have a look at those, because you'd be surprised sometimes when you're getting charged, twice for something, or if it's not necessary. But, that's one thing we have to think about is also our money. So you want to think about your banking and at least look at that on a regular basis.
Good point, Cece.
Mhm,
And that leads us into what we're going to talk about next, automating and delegating,
mhm,
because of the fact that, yes, after we eliminate that, but then we ask ourselves again, looking at that list, what can we automate? What can we delegate? And I don't know about you, but when I started going to all these meetings when I went in business, so I'm talking more to the right now about when I first started going to, like, what do you do even as an entrepreneur? And
right.
I just was always shocked how many things people told me I had to do. They would tell me I had to blog. They told me I'd have to write articles. They told me I have to be on interviews on TV, so on radio shows, on podcasts even weren't even really around when I started. But the point is that you have to constantly be out there networking. That was the biggest thing they used to tell me. Network, network, network. So myself, I literally would go 3 to 5 different networking meetings often a day.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that is amazing. But then you come back and you're trying to um, take all those cards that you collected and put them in your database, just as an example. And, then you have to remember to what they also talked about, blog it to them, or at least remind them who you are, all these different things with, but the big core thing was networking. They kept saying that you have to grow your network, grow your network, grow your network, and that seemed to be so amazing, that how they stress that, because of the fact that a lot of times when I did do that, all the networking, but I still found that the average network meeting I went to, they were just there to sell me something. They really didn't want to buy anything from me. And not that that's right or wrong. It's just unique way to look at it. And instead of continually doing that, look for new ways that you can get in front of the right people, that would really be the decision makers that would hire you, as well as how do you stay in front of them. So these are some of the questions I'm going to ask you now today. Remember, our listeners and viewers, you be our guest expert. And we're going to ask you some things that you just need to think about regarding this eliminate, automate, and delegate for your business. One of the things that many of the groups would teach me, and people that were in business longer than me, sometimes they were my mentors, and I was really blessed to have a lot of mentors. And a lot of my mentors I never even met. They just were authors in books that I learned from them. So it's a combination today of all these different types of people that Cece and I have come in contact with, that we've gleaned a lot of information for them. So I just thought we'd review it today. And you might be like us, be in business a long time, but sometimes if you don't take time to review some of the things you're doing or want to be doing and not implementing them, you're just stuck. So as I ask you some of these questions, just jot down what your thoughts are about it. Like for one of them, they used to tell me all the time I had to create a newsletter and I had to send it out regularly. And it had to be this long, just say, 2, 3 pages. And so I just am asking you to ask yourself, are you consistently and frequently sending out a newsletter? And if you are, right, how often you send it out? And it's just is going to
I
be
need to do better on that. I know myself.
okay. Well, we have solutions for these things, so I don't want you to think this is just asking you the questions, but we want you to think about it because, like Cece just said, I mean, I include it when I hear a lot of these things. I think, oh my goodness, I haven't done that for a while or whatever. So the other thing is, even besides the newsletter, they even recommend that you send out email blasts often, more even than the newsletter. An email blast is just, a way to remind them who you are, or maybe that you got an award or something like that. So how often do you, our guest experts with us today, how often do you send out email blasts? And when you do that, how do you do it one by one by one, or do you have a CRM that does these types of things, the newsletters and the email blasts? Because that was the other thing they used to tell me all the time. You have to have a CRM. You have to have a CRM. Well, what is a CRM? A client relationship management package. And what's so great about that? Well, when you do send out the newsletters, you could have already created different groups or filters that say that I only want to send this message to event professionals that could hire me, with this new information, maybe my new bio, my new headshot, whatever, because of the fact that that reminds me of what we're also going to be talking about too, because of the fact that most of the time we don't realize it. But did you guys ever see one of these?
Mm-hmm.
It's a portfolio. My sister was a model when I was a kid. Okay, she would fill that portfolio before she went to see casting directors or different people that could hire her or have her on their show or have them, in on stage or whatever. But she would have it filled with headshots, beautiful photos of her in different positions, different hairstyles, different clothing. It was really, really amazing. And we're talking a long time ago. And bios, her biographies, and sometimes where they were shorter, sometimes they were longer, intense. Sometimes she had included articles that she was mentioned in. Sometimes it was even if she was in a commercial or whatever. So these portfolios were huge, but you physically had to go and meet with these people. Well, today you can have a portfolio that's electronic and you don't need to do that, but you do need to keep adding information to it. And we'll talk more about that later. But I'm just telling you all about the portfolio now so you can start thinking about the next couple things I'm going to be asking you. Because the other thing that people were always telling me is that you also had to be like on shows. Like right now, Cece is the host. I'm her co-host. We call ourselves co-host, but meaning that you need to be interviewed on the radio, on the TV, on the podcast, or in our case, we combine them. But the point is, that's really important when people are wanting to hire you. So ask yourself, out there, when's the last time you were interviewed? Because the other thing is we don't realize it, but we can do so many things with that interview. Cece and I, for an example, when you're on our show, we actually do create them into press releases. Sometimes then we convert them into a blog. We distribute them on email blasts. We distribute them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all different kinds of social media sites. We also send out newsletters about your interview on newsletters. So look for people like Cece and I that interview you, but not just interview you, but also what you can do with that. Because I believe so many people forget about repurposing what they already did. And we'll be talking about that in a little bit too. But there is um, so many ways that we can save time instead of being busy by repurposing. And another big one that I really don't want to forget to ask you, how many sources of income do you have? Because so many of us that are what we call experts are usually speakers, consultants, coaches, team builders, trainers. And many of them that are speakers, for an example, they speak so that they can actually get coaching positions, or they speak so they can get consulting gigs. But the point is, can you also create passive and residual income from that? And the answer is yes. And we'll keep talking about that too. But in today's economy, a lot of times you don't even get paid to be a speaker anymore. And often people actually ask us when they are looking for a speaker if they will pay to be on their stage, because of the fact they feel like they're getting the butts in the seats, or even virtually getting the people to watch you. So they're expecting you to pay to be part of their event. So just beware, things change all the time, but that's why it is so important to come up with passive and residual income. And we'll be talking more about that. So
Can I just say one
go ahead.
thing about
Yeah,
when
please.
you were talking about some of the other things you were talking about? Basically, it's marketing, right? It's marketing, but what people miss out on is that it's not just marketing for the product or service that you have, but you have to market yourself, right? And so
Mhm.
you have to be your best person when you're out there. And so when you're creating a new and people look at things differently. Like for instance, here we do a great job on the TV, right? So people are visual. Some people are very visual, so they like to look at the TV and they like to look at you. They like to get to know you. They get to know your personality as you're on the show and things like that. Then we have the podcast, right? Which is, the audio. Some people just don't have time to sit and watch a TV show anymore. So they want it audio. They're riding their bike. They're out doing all kinds of different things, doing the dishes or whatever. And so they pop in, and listen to a podcast because this drops into a podcast format. And then you have, we have the radio because people still listen to the radio, and so we're on internet radio. So we cover all of three of those things on marketing, but with the publications is something that's very vital that we don't realize that we're kind of old school, right? I mean, I'm getting up there, right? And I'm in the world of newspapers and things like that, but people like to read. They like to be able to absorb things that way. So which is why your newsletters are important. Maybe an email is important. So you want to do those things, but you want to look at it from a standpoint: is this going to work for my business? Is this going to help my business? And why am I doing it? Because if you don't need to do a newsletter, don't do a newsletter, right? Do something else that's going to generate, that type of thing, a publication of some sort. And like you said, a blog, maybe a blog is better than doing a newsletter, and how often do you want to do that? So you want to really, truly think about your business, what you want to accomplish, where you want to go with it, and then how you can implement it and being able to do it in an easier fashion. And we did have a message here. I'm not quite sure if I understand it. Too long a letter, but a good idea. I don't know what that means exactly. Do you know
I'm
what it
not
is?
sure either, but maybe I don't know. She might want to email us later, but too
Yeah.
long letter. Um,
Weiland,
you were
I'm
telling
not
too
sure
much,
what you're talking about, but again, there's other ways of doing things
but thank
that that you might want to think about. I know you're very, like, you do cards, right? You send cards out to people all the time. You know, birthday cards, and just thank you for, you know,
you being on
being
the
a part
show.
of our lives, and whatever. You do all kinds of really wonderful like that. Oh, a newsletter. The newsletter she meant. Yeah, she said newsletter, but she's just typing fast. But yeah, so I totally get that. So you want to think about the different things that in your, and put together your marketing plan. So those are some of the elements you want to do. Like in a business, you have different I guess you don't want to divide it up into like different areas. And so one would be the financial, one would be your marketing, put together your marketing plan of what you could possibly do. And then, and I love that when you're talking about finances, or you're talking about other streams of income. If you only have one stream of income, you're in trouble. You've got to have multiple streams of income, because you cannot count on any one thing. I will tell you a story. Years ago, I was in the insurance industry, into recruiting, and they only had one type of recruiting going on. They only had, I forget now what it was, but they only had one type of recruiting going on in the insurance industry. Well, when I went there to work, I thought, wow, you need to have another one, so I started into like claims and things like that. And so I developed that in there. They said, run with it, go with it. That's what you think you need to do. So I did. I built it all up and everything. And then coming to find out, it was underwriting. That's what I was trying to think. Underwriting fell through, and they weren't able to get any recruiting from underwriting anymore, but they had the claims side built up because I used to work there. So I'm just saying, you need multiple streams of income, and there's so many different ways of doing it. And there's different ways of marketing that different streams of income, which is very vital. So I love the lists. I think I'm a list person, so I think it's important to make lists. So yeah, so I think you're on the right track here,
Yes,
so
and we're going to talk about that if you'd like to take the break now. And
yeah,
then,
let's take a break when we get back. And I'm so thankful that, we have listeners that are commenting. Thank you so much for that. And we do appreciate you. So please just go ahead and keep on commenting and listening. We do appreciate you. So you guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're on the new streamingnetwork.com. This show here is Linked to Expert. We're talking about Business Showcase here. I am Cece Shatz. I have my good friend Joanne Weiland here with me, and we're talking about today eliminating, automating, and delegating to expose your expertise. And this is a part 2. If you didn't listen to the part 1 or the first part of this show, you're going to have to go back and listen to it, because it's something you don't want to miss. It will definitely help your business. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am Cece Shatz, just one of your hosts here today. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland, with me. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the new streamingnetwork.com, home of Going Solo and Going Bold. Today, we've been talking about eliminating, automating, and delegating to expose your expertise. This is a part 2. But before we head back into the show, I want to make sure, because we're talking about making your own list, right? Looking at your business, making your own list. You're the expert in your field. And so let's write that down and let's continue. But if you have any questions that you want to contact us personally, we're more than happy to help you. And all you have to do is send us an email. Joanne's is info@linktoexpert.com. That's link, LINKTO, expert, EXPERT.com. Just info@linktoexpert.com. I am going solo network at gmail.com. Have had it for years. So it's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. So you are more than welcome to send us an email, ask us any questions. We'd love to help you in your business. So it would be an honor to be able to do that. So let's get on back to our topic. Grab your piece of paper and your notebook and your pen, and let's really make this list, because I think Joanne, you're on the right track here on this. Absolutely.
Well, I can also share some insights too that I didn't share in the beginning, that these also not just were told me what to do, but I also kept thinking of everybody else that was told to do these things. And I thought how expensive it was, number one. Number two, how exhausting it is by having to do all these things. And then I also thought it's lonely because of the fact that, almost all of us were supposed to do this all by ourselves. And my middle name is collaboration. And so I kept trying to figure out, how can we collaborate? How can we do all these things as well as grow our businesses? How can we make money? Because many of us came from corporate or from some business that we got a paycheck every month or every week even. And then all of a sudden you're not only not making any money, but you're also having to spend money to do all these things that they're telling us to do. So that was the other thing that really, really, really got me. So that is actually why I created Link to Expert. We'll get into more of the details then, but just so you know, it was created so all these things that we're talking about, that you create your email blast, that you create your blogs, that you could go get your interviews. How do you distribute them? Okay, so you distribute them. Maybe a lot of people I know really truly have like 100, maybe 500 even people in their database, well, which is great. But a lot of times they're their friends and families and neighbors, and they're not the people that can hire them. So I thought, well, what if we created a collaborative cloud community where everybody has their own 40-page interactive marketing platform to put all these things that we won't have time to all talk about today, but some of them are your bios, your intros, your videos, your credentials, your awards, your photo galleries, your articles that were about you, your blogs, your email blasts, your newsletters, all these things. There's 40 different pages, even like what type of clients you're looking for, what type of travel requirements you have. It might sound like silly things, but all these things, if you can include them in one place, your fee schedules, when the people that are wanting to hire you, it's can find everything in one place. So they know, oh my God, Cece's the one. I definitely want to hire her to speak at our next event, or be our MC, or do a breakout session, or I love that book she wrote. Oh, look at, she's also written a workbook. She's also has an audio book about that. I mean, that's what we were starting to talk about before the break too. You can also sell your products all in one place. You can talk about them, but then you can also have the store, because a lot of people, they don't have the online store because then they have to have the shopping cart, they have to have the payment system. We created all that for you. And the reason I'm telling you all this, because the real key is the collaboration part. So you not only get in front of all your contacts that you, every time you meet them, you just take 5 minutes at the most and upload their email and their name, because that is in your CRM, that's within Link to Expert. And then other people are doing the same. So twice a month, your information goes to everybody's people. And the reason that's important, we're always all looking for decision makers instead of, again, the neighbors, friends, and family. And so sometimes that person is going to need what you do more than what other people do, and vice versa. Because I find when I worked with executives before I started this, and still work with them, they don't need the same type of expert every time, every week. They have different fire drills, they have different things that come up, they have different requirements. So they're always needing somebody to help them, but it's not always the same type of person. So it really works for them. That's why with the newsletter we were talking about earlier, maybe Cece said you want just to put one thing in it. And that's what they told us they prefer. The executives and the entrepreneurs and the event professionals that are looking to hire you, they just need to know about that one thing. They don't need to have the 4-page newsletter about you, but they can also look at the newsletter and see what type of expert is something they would like to maybe consider bringing in as, a person to hire for that project.
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about full-time employment here. We're talking about experts that want to be, hired for that particular freelance job. And so it's really important that you think of that too, because ask yourself how many people are promoting your stuff? How many people are actually featuring you on their social media sites? And if they are, that's wonderful. Keep doing it. But if you want to even get in front of hundreds of thousands, literally consider working with Cece and Joanne, because of the fact that that is our expertise to actually, just like our TV, radio, podcast show. Most people that tell me they've been on an interview, they might have been on Spotify, and that's wonderful. But just for an example, when we get you on 55 to 59 different networks, that is you spending that 1 hour interviewing, and we distribute it to all these 55 networks for you. So you just actually spend that 1 hour doing that. And like we said, we can convert it to press releases. And when we were talking about press releases and blogs, we also put in the link that goes to your interview. So it's actually multiple ways to get your interview even more so into that. And then, of course, on the newsletters, the email blast, the blogs. So think about when you are creating this marketing plan that Cece's talking about, because it's so true, but how you can repurpose things instead of just redoing everything from scratch. And speaking of that, with the multiple streams of income, Cece,
I
it's
think
amazing to me.
to save a lot of that for the next show because we're already into it.
Oh,
But
yes.
let's do that.
But
Let's
let's
make a
talk
whole
about that
show for
again.
multiple streams of income because I think that would be a really important an important topic that we could spend some time on, But
Exactly.
the other thing is too is I think what people don't realize that you have got to continuously make yourself stand out as the expert, even though you know you're the expert because you've been doing for so long, right? And you've got it perfected. You've got it all perfected for what it is that you do. But you have to continuously be out there showing everyone that you are the expert. And so that's why I think that it's so important. Not only your site, Link to Expert, beyond that, but also how the TV and the podcasting and all of that does for you. And of course, you can then put that in your bio that you've been on, this show, that show, whatever, and be able
Mhm.
to go. Because like I don't talk about it a lot, being on Bay News 9 or anything like that. And I know that I should, because, it was it's an important thing to do, but I don't do that. I forget about it because I just move on and I'm working on my business. So I just keep on moving on. But yeah, so it's important to maybe start putting that like in a catalog and create, that for your marketing material so that you can definitely, put that in and all the different places that you've actually appeared and, what you've done and why you're so good at what you do. So yeah, I think we miss out on that a lot. So
Exactly. No, Cece, you're absolutely right. And constantly ask yourself again what we talked about. What can I eliminate? What can I automate? Because that's the other thing. Once you automate something, I paid my programmers to do something one time and I never have to do it again. Our newsletter goes out seamlessly. I don't even have to touch it. I mean, it all gets populated and sent to all these people. So just as an example, is automation, and then delegate, because there is a lot of things on your list that you're going to really recognize that you don't even like to do or you don't want to do. Well, maybe that's when you hire another expert, because the experts aren't experts at everything. They're an expert at something. But that way you can hire them to do it for you or with you or automate it for you. And so I just feel like, let's all just have more fun in life instead of just being busy with our business.
yeah. Well, and the time is the one thing you can't change, right? You can change a lot of things in your life, but you cannot change. There's only 24 hours in a day, and that's it. You
Right.
can't squeeze in another minute, another hour, and you can't. So our time is very, very valuable, extremely valuable. and we need to divide that with our families and people we love and our friends, and things that we enjoy doing, and things that will keep us healthy. And it can't all be about work. So we have to do the best we can and try to minimize, the time that we do spend, and make it efficient and effective and all of those things. So yeah, absolutely. I
One
mean,
is
that's
true.
why I started this business, is because I wanted to be able to be more effective, and be able to get it out there. And so yeah, so I totally understand.
And our next show, we're going to have Jen Hardy on, and she's a podcaster, for an example, and she creates all these YouTube shorts as well as her podcast, and she does it consistently and frequently. She has 7 kids, and she told me on, well, all of us on one of her podcasts, but I heard her thing that she eliminated from her list was cleaning. She hired somebody to clean. And that, so it could even be like that as well, because if, especially I'm sure if you have that many kids, you would, have a mess. But so she even recognized to help her create more podcasts, create more shows, YouTube shorts, all that she needed to eliminate cleaning the house. So it could be that, or it could be like we're talking about somebody, interviewing you. And so it's all different ways, but every part of it is unique for you. So we just recommend that you just keep
Mhm.
doing what we're talking about. Look at your list and figure out what you can eliminate, automate, and delegate. And we're so glad that you're with us, because we really do want you to succeed, because
Mhm.
I mean, this is important to you to do what you love and love what you do. And we do believe, Cece and I, collaborating is simple, easy, prosperous, and fun. And you have to decide though to make it simple, easy, prosperous, and fun. And we do our best to help ourselves as well as you to do that as well, because we really are here to have more fun instead of always just be busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about Jen, because, I think we have to be, on that curve all the time, because technology is changing, right? We've got to be able to allow ourselves to flow into new experiences and new things, and allow that change to be happening. And the shorts and all of those are now, the reels, they have the reels, and they have all the different, they call them all something different, but they're big now. And so we need to think about that in our marketing plan. Is it something that we want to include? And if we include it, like, what type of reels and shorts do we want to make? What's more going to be more effective for us? And, I had someone that was making these kind of really far out kind of shorts and stuff, reels and things like that. And they were just so far out that it wasn't really being effective to their business. It was getting them the likes, and everybody was like looking at them. They get the views, they're
Mhm.
going for the
Right.
views. But the reality is the views wasn't getting them really what they wanted in their business. So it was just shock. It was like, oh, it was just shock view. And it's like, you don't need that. So again, you want to think about what you do. Is it effective to your business? And, do you want to include that, keep that going, and being bold, going bold, and allowing yourself to be different, and step out of the box, and learn something new, and, grab a hold of it, as it's going. So yeah.
Well, it really comes down to your mindset. I don't know
Yep.
if you guys ever noticed my mug, but my daughter-in-law bought me this, and it says, "Be kind to your mind."
I
And she
like
said
that.
she thought of me with that, because I'm always asking myself, do I really believe that? Or is it something I've always been told? Or is it
Mhm.
something I've just always done? So really, really ask yourself those types of questions, and you'll be shocked to see how many limited beliefs you have. And you're the only one that can break through them. So all the things that Cece and I've been talking about, actually just not just this show, also all the shows, that we're encouraging you to be bold, like she said, to break out of that mindset that nobody really cares, because a lot of times we don't realize it because it comes easy to us as the person that has that area of expertise, that we feel like everybody knows it, but trust me, they don't. And when they don't, they'll pay you to do it for them. So don't give it away. And also get out of that limited belief that it's not valuable, but just find the people that is valuable to, or at least, like Cece was talking about, market to them, because sales and marketing go hand in hand. Because if you're not out there yes, shaking hands and, visiting people as well or calling them, but you also do need to consistently and frequently stay in front of them because they get bombarded with 100,000 words a day. So you got to stay in front of the noise and keep reminding them of what you can do to make their life easier, because that's really what they're asking when they're reading your stuff, when they're listening to you, when they're watching you. What is that person going to do to make my life easier? Because they're in the same boat as us. They're trying to find more time to do what they want to do instead of always doing this. So thank you again for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we hope that you'll join us next time where we talk a little bit more about your business and how you can, get ahead and do things that you want to do. And, we want you to be successful. I mean, that's what we're here for. And so we have given you our emails. Again, I'll share it again. Joanne's is info@linktoexpert.com. And then mine is goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. So if you have a question regarding your business, why don't you reach out to us? We're happy to talk to you about it. If it's something we don't know the answer to, we'll find the right person for you that you can get that answer that you need, because we want you to be successful. So we are here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and you're listening to New Streaming Network, home of Going Solo and Going Bold. And this is the Link to Expert Business Showcase. I am Cece Shatz. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.